go ahead and get started. I just wanted to start out by saying thank you, everybody, for joining us. Today we are going to talk about the Summer Youth Employment Program Worksite Evaluation Requirement. And we'll start out, we'll give just the background of this requirement, as well as walking through some of the resources that are available for you and the process that's so that you can access the worksite evaluation, as well as filling it out and collecting that information. We do have Jeannie Kitchens with us today. She's part of the Illinois WorkNet team that many of you, I'm sure, are very familiar with. And she is answering questions via the chat. So if you have any questions throughout the entire presentation, you can ask questions via chat, and she will be able to answer you. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. As far as the background information, the policy is available, and the information hasn't changed as far as we have new and returning participants, and we do have the process of having them complete the pre-assessment and the activities, participate in their work experience, and then towards the end of their work experience, complete the post-assessment. So that still is all intact. But we do have TEGL 2709 that came out, and the part of that we're going to focus on today is the part that provides additional guidance on how to measure work readiness for youth. And as part of that, they have a requirement that a worksite evaluation is required for measuring their performance in the workplace. And this is to be completed, filled out by an employer. And we do have a tool that's available. It was developed because of this requirement that is available on Illinois WorkNet, and it will be used as a tool to measure or evaluate their performance, and it will be used throughout all the LWIAs. Okay, and so with this process, the employer actually fills out and evaluates the youth, and then the workforce professional is the person who actually enters in the data. So we'll take a look at more of that in just a few moments. We will be discussing, or I'll be showing you where to find resources within the Workforce Professionals Pathway. We'll go over an overview, and we'll do this in a couple of ways. We're going to go through the PowerPoint, because I know this is a lot of information, so we're going to go through the PowerPoint, and we're going to go through a process flow, because we have different types of learners, and sometimes it's easier for people to see the actual flow and the steps, and it's easier for individuals to understand it that way. But then we'll also be providing a demonstration of how to access the worksite evaluation form and to complete that. So we do have resources, and all this information is accessed through the Workforce Professionals Pathway. This is a screen capture of the Workforce Professionals Pathway homepage. And so what you'll see in the front and center, there's multiple ways to access the information, but we've put this information front and center in the middle of your Workforce Professionals homepage so that you can easily find the guidance and the resources that are related to Summer Youth Employment Program. Now over on the left-hand side, in the left-hand navigation, on your home page it says Customer Groups, SYEP 2010. This is where you actually access the groups. So within your groups, that's where you're going to access the worksite evaluation, that you're going to put your individuals, your youth participants in their customer groups. And just as a refresher, the reasons why you would put your customers into their groups is so that, for one thing, you identify whether they're new or returning. Each individual or each participant needs to have their Illinois WorkNet account. And what's helpful, we found as tips from the field, is that if before you actually meet with your youth, if you can search their name and add them into the customer group, you can go ahead and get that process started, because then you can easily identify if they already have their Social Security number in their account or any other information, and to ensure that they get the right set of activities. So the youth will set up their Illinois WorkNet account, and they will need to include their Social Security number into that account. Whenever they're added to a group or refreshed within their customer group, it'll make that link to the IWDS account. And IWDS has them they're in IWDS as either new or returning. And so whenever we make that connection with IWDS, that is the key factor that will determine whether the person gets a new set of new activities for new participants or returning activities for the returning participants. And it's really important to do that up front because we want to make sure, especially for those returning participants, we don't want to make them have to do the activities that they did last year plus the activities for this year. Okay. It's also important, you need to go ahead and have them in the groups anyway because, as I mentioned before, this is where you have the worksite evaluation. Okay, so our primary focus is the worksite evaluation. Now, if you're in a situation where you have youth that are just getting started or haven't started their work experience, then that's great. We can use the worksite evaluation up at the very beginning of their work experience, just so, even if this is the first time that they've really been in a work environment, they may not have had a whole lot of experience working, and so it's nice to use this as a tool to communicate with them, to let them know what is expected of them and how they're going to be evaluated. Now, I know that there are many of you that have youth that are, have already started their work experience. They've already taken their pre-assessment. They've already gone through the activities, and they're already, chugging away at their work site. Well, we also have an opportunity for you to complete a mid-work experience. And this is not required, but it is, again, a way to communicate with the youth that these are the skills that you need to have on a job, and these are the expectations that we have for you. And so we'll take a look at those definitions in a little bit. But the point that I really wanted to draw your attention to is that the end of work experience, or the final evaluation, is what it is required, okay? And this evaluation is scored and it is reported to IWDS. Now, how you can access the end of work or the final evaluation is they have to have completed their pre-assessment activities and post-assessment, and then you'll be able to access the final evaluation. Okay, so we have the resources that are available, the worksite evaluation. We have that available on the Workforce Pathway in several locations. And what you can do is you can print or email the evaluation to the employer, and then it's really important that you review it with the worksite employer or supervisor, because it's good for them to, just remind them that this is a person, this might be their first time on the job, and they use this tool as a way to communicate your expectations, the skills that are needed on the job, and how they're going to be evaluated before they get too far into it. Also, you can use this tool that we're going to take a look at in a little bit to also let them know when you need to have the evaluation returned to you by. And you can also let them know that this is part of a requirement and they need to meet certain criteria in order to meet the requirements. So in that case, it's especially important that they understand what the expectations are so they can help with them achieving those goals. So once the employer completes the worksite evaluation, then the evaluations are turned into the workforce professional, and then the workforce professional will enter that data into Illinois workNet. The supervisor does not have access to the workforce professional's pathway to enter that. That is completed by the workforce professional. And just to make sure everybody knows, the post-assessment has to be completed before they can enter the final evaluation. If it's not completed, then they cannot access the final evaluation. they must include their Social Security number. That's what makes the connection with the IWDS account, which determines which type of activities that they get, and also where we need to make sure that their worksite evaluation is associated with their account, and that we can connect that to IWDS to indicate whether they've met the requirements or not. So this is an example of a person that's in my customer group, and you'll see here's my contact information, their name. Then we have a column with their contact information and the worksite evaluation. There's a link here, and that's where you're going to access the worksite evaluation. Now, the first step is to link them to an employer. So when you first go there, it might say Add Employer. After you do that, it'll just say the employer's name. But regardless, that link is how you get to the worksite evaluation. So when you first go to your customer group and you click on that link, then you have to assign it to an employer. So you'll click on this little link here that says Employer Search. Whenever you click on the Employer Search, it's going to give you an option to either search for an employer that's already in a list, or if you know that employer is not in there, then you can click to add the site, to add that employer. Okay. The information, if you're going to add an employer, the information that you're going to need to add is the business or the employer name, not the OWIA, and then their contact information. So if you're adding an employer, once you add that information, they will be added to a list. And so if you have multiple people that are working at the same site, at the same location, that same employer, you can have Bob and Jane and so forth. You can go ahead and just click to add that employer, and you don't have to keep re-entering their contact information. You can simply select them from a listing. Once you have the employer information associated with the youth participant, then you need to fill out just a couple more required fields, which would be the supervisor's name, the youth job title, and then their work site information. And all these are listed right here in your PowerPoint. Okay, so once you have those fields entered, then you will have access to the worksite evaluation. Now, my example that I have down here is an example of a worksite evaluation that has been completed. You can see it says it's a preliminary worksite evaluation. I went ahead earlier and I had clicked on it. I had completed the evaluation, and once it's complete, I can take a look at this. I can click Select, and I can again review the results. Now, in this particular example, I also have a link for the final evaluation. And the final evaluation, you can see, has not been completed yet. It's waiting here for me to complete it. I can simply click on the link and complete filling out the fields and save it, and my final evaluation will be complete. If I have a youth participant that has not completed their post-assessment, then this link will not be active. It will be grayed out. Once they complete their post-assessment, then you can access that link. Right. So we know how to get the student set up with associated with an employer. We know how to access the worksite evaluation, but what we need is the data. We need the feedback from the employer in order to enter that information, because the evaluation does need to be completed by the employer. Now, we have links throughout the site to the worksite evaluation, so you can print out this document, and I'm going to go ahead and show that on my screen right now. Let me open this up and make it so that you can see it. Alrighty. Okay. So the first page of this evaluation has just the general information to collect: the worksite name, participant name, dates, It also provides some instructions or some background information just to remind them that, again, this is a youth that we're talking about. This might be their first experience. This is a learning experience. Please use this evaluation to help them learn about the skills that are required on the job that can help them in future jobs, not only this job. And this is what their evaluation is going to be based upon. Their final evaluation will be scored, and in order to meet the requirements, they need to have a minimum of 7 out of 10 of the foundation skills need to have a rating of needs development or higher. Plus, we have an area down here at the bottom where you can include your contact information, and you'll want to include your contact information, your phone number, email, and instructions as to, please email your completed evaluation to me, or drop it off, or send in or send it through the email. Okay. Now this is where we actually get into anyone else is having that same issue, just please let me know. Go ahead and enter your information into the chat pod. David, if your issue has been resolved, just let me know that too, so we can make sure that you can see. Neither do I. Okay. Here. Is anyone else having a problem with seeing anything? This is the worksite evaluation. Okay. Okay, it's a lag time. Okay. Now, if you would like to follow along, if you don't already have it printed out, in the file share pod right below the chat screen, this is the top item. It says Worksite Evaluation V3 Final. You can click on that and download that to your computer so you can follow along that way as well. But this information is all in your PowerPoint, and it's available for you to review as well. So we do have, okay, let me get back to the foundation skills. We have 10 skills. We have attendance, punctuality, and also for David, I'll be reading these off so you'll be able to follow along. We have punctuality, workplace appearance, taking initiative, quality of work, communication skills, response to supervision, teamwork, problem-solving skills, critical thinking, workplace culture, policy, and safety. So those are the foundation skill areas. The ratings, excuse me, is performance improvement plan needed, needs development, proficient, and exemplary. Now with each of these ratings, we do have, if you scroll down to the next page, we do have some definitions for these ratings, so it's not just subjective. So with the performance improvement plan needed, this may be a situation where a case manager might need to work with the youth because they're just not it's really a category of their being inconsistent with each of these skills. They're not showing that they really are understanding, or they're not showing a consistent effort. With proficient, they're demonstrating that they are really trying. They understand that, for example, that it is important to attend work, and it's important that if you're not going to be there, to let your employer know. And so really it shows that they're on a pathway to understand the importance of that particular skill. And with exemplary, that shows that, yes, they get it. They're doing that skill, and they're consistently performing that skill the way that they should, they're expected to on the job. So that is the worksite evaluation. Let me go ahead and move this out of the way. We'll go back to the PowerPoint. We've covered this information. This, again, is just like a brief overview. I do want to point out that, again, that the final evaluation is what is required, and it will be available after the post-assessment. It has been completed. Once that's completed, the system automatically calculates the overall score, and you'll see a summary for each of these skills and their rating. Now, again, remember that they must have 7 items that are marked as need development or higher, and successfully complete the post-assessment in order to meet the requirements. So based on that criteria, they'll either be marked as meeting requirements or not meeting requirements, and the system will use the Illinois workNet system to update the requirement within IWDS. I do want to point out that we do have a certificate of completion, so once they complete the post-assessment and the post-survey. And I just want to, at this time, have a little point of clarification. The post-assessment is the assessment that's required for the policy, and that, remember, just as a refresher, they have to score higher on their post-assessment than they do on their pre-assessment. They have 3 opportunities to take their post-assessment, and they have, for those 3 opportunities, they only have 3 opportunities to take the post-assessment to score higher than on the pre-assessment. We do ask them to also complete the post-survey. Now, the post-survey is a little bit different because it's asking for their feedback on the program and how it was provided, and of these different categories, what is the interest level to you? Do you find it important, not so important, and so forth? So we had a lot of really good feedback last year from our post-survey, and we implemented those into the program this year, and so we're hoping to do the same again. Then the final piece that we're talking about particularly today is the worksite evaluation. So once the worksite evaluation is complete, with all those items, then they can print their certificate of completion, and we highly recommend that they complete their certificate of completion. They put in the time and effort. They should be proud of that, and they can print that out and keep that within their portfolio. Okay. Now, before I move on to the next steps, I want to go ahead and just cover the information again, just real briefly, using the process flow that's available. And again, this is available in your downloads and from the Workforce Professionals Pathway. Let me zoom in a little bit. The idea is that, the point is that, we start out with the Workforce Professionals Pathway. You access it through the customer groups. That's where you make sure that the youth get the right set of activities. You can track where they are with those activities. You can see how they scored on their assessments. And this is where you access the worksite evaluation. Then you need to make sure within that customer group that the youth has been linked up to or associated with an employer. And you simply either search for an employer from an existing list, or you add them to the list. Once you have them associated with that employer, then you include their supervisor's contact information, or contact name, I should say, and the youth's job title, and the worksite date when they started the worksite. In this section right here, remember we do have a mid-work experience evaluation that is not required, especially for those who already have youth that have completed their work experience, but it is available to you, so the employer can complete the evaluation. The workforce professional enters the information, and once they do that, then the next step would be for the youth to complete their post-assessment. Once they've completed their post-assessment, or at the time when they're completing their post-assessment, the employer can complete the end of work experience evaluation. They provide that to the workforce professional. The workforce professional enters that information. The information is scored. If they have 7 items or more that have been selected as need development or higher, and they have successfully completed their post-assessment, then they have met their requirements. So they can print their certificate of completion. The information that has been collected within Illinois workNet will be used to update the work readiness requirement within IWDF. Okay. Let me go ahead, and that was our summary here. Let me go ahead and move this out of the way, and I will move over and we'll take a look at the actual website. So I'm going to share my computer screen, and let me go back to my home page real quick, and I'll zoom in for you. WorkNet page. Now, since I am zoomed in, and I'm going to increase my text size just so that it's easier for you to see. If you see it looks a little bit off, just please keep in mind that it is because I have zoomed in so it's easier for you to see. So I'm at my Illinois WorkNet homepage, and I'm going to click on Workforce Professionals Pathway, enter here. All this information is in the Workforce Professionals Pathway, and I am already logged in. So if my screen looks a little bit different than yours, that's fine. Remember, I'm logged into my account, so you'll see more information across the entire LWIAs, all the LWIAs, as opposed to information to access. We have the Summer Youth Employment Program. Questions. So if you have a question, it's more than likely that somebody else has had the same question before, so you can click on that link and find the information. As I scroll down, one of the areas that we have, or step 1, be familiar with the policy, guidelines, and instructor training before you begin. That's usually the best approach. So we do have the policy information for SYEP. We also have the TEAGL that's available that talks about this new requirement. And as you scroll down, we have the webinar training for May and June, and that is available for you if you need a refresher on the new versus returning participants, and adding them to your group so they can access the returning activities and so forth. After today, then we will have an archived webinar of the information that we're covering today that will be available on this page as well as the handouts that are available. So I'm going to go ahead and close this section up. As we scroll down to step 2, complete the work readiness activities and work experience. So we have your instructions for the different approaches for new and returning participants, but then we also have a new one, which is complete the work site evaluation. Here you can download the work site evaluation form, send that to your employer, have them fill it out. But it's also important that you let the youth know that this is an evaluation so that they can be expecting. We also have a tool within our customer groups that can help you do this if you choose to use it. This is just a sample text. You can use the text as is or change it, whatever you would like to do. The idea is that we let them know that evaluation tools are often used by employers, so that we're not singling them out. And they are used to offer constructive feedback, tell you what you're doing great, and identify any areas where you might need some improvement. So when we get to our customer groups, I'll show you how to use that customizable message system to send out an email or a message to your youth. Once the employer provides that work site evaluation, whether it's for the mid or the end of work experience, then these are, again, the things to cover, and it gives you instructions on how to access the work site evaluation. With that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go back to my home page for my Workforce Professionals pathway. And I'm going to click on Customer Groups on the left-hand side. And on this page, you'll see that while I wait for my customer groups to come up, they already have, but anytime you see this little eye icon, we call it an eye bubble or information bubble, whenever you click on that throughout the site, you can see additional information. So if you click on that link, it may provide you with additional instructions, or especially if it's in a form, it might give you information on what format to put a date in and so forth. I also want to show you about with step 1, it says enhance your navigation through Illinois WorkNet. If you have your computer set where you don't allow pop-ups, here's some instructions for allowing pop-ups. Also, if you have a situation where you need to allow navigation between secure and non-secure pages, as you're going through the Workforce Professionals pathway and it's constantly asking you, do you want to show information for secure and non-secure pages, and you always have to click yes. If you follow these instructions, you can set your settings so that you don't get that message all the time. The next step is review the following information before you begin. So there's all different types of little sets of instructions here. And the very last one that I have on the list is how to access your worksite evaluation and complete the evaluation form. Okay, so I've worked my way down to my customer groups, and I'm going to access my customer group. I'm going to click on the little plus sign. When I click on the plus sign, it opens up my customer group. And I see my customer names. Oops, let me scroll up a little bit here. I see my customer name, and then I see the next column that says contact information, date they were added to the group, and worksite evaluation. So on this first example, I've already made a link with my student, my customer 31. I've already linked them to an employer, and so that's how I would access the worksite evaluation. If they haven't been linked to an employer, it'll simply say add employer. So for my example, with my first customer, customer 31, please notice before I go to their worksite evaluation, that it says that they've completed the pre-assessment, but they have not taken the post-assessment. So that means when I go to this page, that I will be able to see their preliminary evaluation, but I won't be able to complete the final evaluation. So I'm going to zoom into this person. And if this was the first time, and if I had not already linked them to an employer, or maybe I looked at the information and I think, oh, that's not the employer that I wanted for them, all I would do is click on Employer Search. If I wanted to add a keyword, I could add a keyword. So I can either change the employer to a different employer, or if I needed to add a new site, I could simply click on Add a New Site, enter the contact information, and click Save, and it will automatically take me back to my customer's information. So let me go ahead and just click on them again. So we have them linked to their employer. Once they are linked to their employer, then there's just use a job title. In this case, I have tester. In some case, maybe maintenance person, whatever the case may be. So it's the use save. And you can see down here at the bottom, post-assessment. So I click on completes the, actually does the evaluation, and the workforce professional enters the information. So I have my information from the employer, and I'm just going to go ahead and start the evaluation, and I'm going to click on the ratings for this person. The bottom, and I can enter comments in the comments field if I would like to, and then I can preview the outcome. Whenever I preview the outcome, it gives me the information as far as, are they proficient? Do they need development? So I can just do a quick double check to make sure that I entered the information correctly from what the employer provided, and I can save the evaluation. So this information has been saved with this customer. So let me go back to my customer group, and if I go to a person that has already completed their post-assessment, I'm going to go to this person because I already have an employer set up with them. You'll see that I have already, let me zoom in, you'll see that I have already completed the preliminary evaluation for this person, and they have completed their post-assessment, so their final evaluation is available. Go back. Now all this information is within the customer group. Now as I mentioned before, we do have, I'm going to zoom out a little bit, point out to you is past, if they haven't scored higher on their post-assessment than their pre-assessment, that before they take their second chance, they should go through the activities, and at the end of each of the activities, there's a review section. For the review section, there's questions, and then there is a link to the answer. All the youth has to do is click on the link there for the post-assessment. You can also look at the customer quiz stats, and that will let you know which questions were used. One of the down menu. So when you add your customers, if they don't have their Social Security number in the account, you can send an email message or an email message or an Illinois workNet message to any of those participants that do not have their social number in their account, and it will give them a message that, to let them know to include that information along with a link that will automatically log them into their account. We also have a generic message for reminding customers to update their user profile. This could be, for their contact information, their phone number, their email address, but it also provides a link to log them automatically into their account. We also have the custom email message, and you can choose, because for any of these messages, you can choose to send it to either the new or the returning participants or both. Or you can choose to send it to their emails only, to their user message, which would mean that next time they log into their Illinois workNet account, they'd have a green box at the top to notify them that they have messages, or you can send it to both. If I choose the custom email message, all I have to do is click on the link to enter data for the custom email, and I can type into that text box, and I can type into the subject, and I can send the message, and it will send the message to everyone in my customer group. So those are some of the tools that that you have that are available to you within the customer group. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open it up for questions. Let me stop sharing, and I'll move on to the next screen. You can still ask questions using the chat pod that's available to you on the screen. I'm going to open up the polling questions, so if you'd go ahead and start answering the polling questions.
The floor mode is on. To request the floor, enter star, then pound.
And then I will go over these polling questions as well. If you'd like to ask questions and you're using the conference call line, then you just press star pound, and we use an open forum method, so that will request the floor. So I'm going to go ahead and start going over these polling questions, but feel free to speak up and interrupt me. If you have a question, I welcome you to do so. Or type in your question in the chat pod. Okay, so the first question, the polling question is, SYEP participants must be in a group in order to complete the worksite evaluation form, and that is true. The next question says the SYEP post-assessment does not need to be completed in order to access the final worksite evaluation. That's false. It doesn't need to be completed in order to do the preliminary, the mid-work experience evaluation, but in order to do the final worksite evaluation, it does need to be complete. Otherwise, you won't be able to click on the link. Who enters the evaluation data into Illinois workNet? The workforce professional actually physically goes in there and enters the data. The employer is the one who provides the feedback as to rating the participant on each of those items, those foundation skills. The next question, what is the final evaluation minimum score that meets requirements? And they need to, again, have 7 out of those 10 items need to be needs development or higher, and they need to successfully complete the post-assessment. They need those 2 components in order to meet requirements. And again, with the one last question, if the post-assessment is required. So, are there any questions? Okay, no questions. Well, let me go back. I want to go back to our PowerPoint and just cover some next steps. So the next steps are to become familiar with the worksite evaluation and the instructions. Make sure you communicate with the employers and the participants just so that they know that the worksite evaluation is required and that this is a positive thing. It's a tool that can be used to help them improve their skills as well as to let them know how they're being evaluated. Provide the form to the employer so that they can complete the evaluation. Let them know when they need to turn it into you, so the workforce professional, so you can enter the data into the workforce professional's pathway. Have the participants continue on with their activities and their post-assessment. Again, we do ask, the post-assessment is required per the policy, but we also have a post-survey that's available because we do value the feedback of the participants. And once the post-survey is finished, then the final evaluation can be completed by the workforce professional, and the youth can their certificate of completion. So with that, if you don't have any other questions, thank you very much for participating today. And make sure that if you do have any questions, you can always email us at info@illinoisworknet.com. We also, on the Workforce Professionals Pathway, we do have a forum. And then we also, on the Workforce Professionals Pathway, have an area that says, it's on the left-hand navigation. It's a yellow box right at the top that says Need Assistance. You can click on that and send us any of your requests. And then we also ask, I highly suggest that you follow us on Twitter And Facebook, we're continuously going in there and reviewing some of the tweets and retweeting. We're sending out tips and so forth. It's a good way, easy way for letting you know about new releases and updates and so forth. Plus, we would like you to let us know if you're using Twitter or Facebook so that we can follow you as well. That way we can just share the information that you have as well. So with that, if you do have the information for us to follow you, you can type it in the chat pod or or follow us. So anyway, everyone have a fabulous afternoon, and thank you very much for joining us. Oh, one other thing. Thank you, Jeannie, for reminding me. We are going to be starting a weekly open forum webinar, so watch for that information coming out. You're welcome to join us and ask us any questions, and we can go over